Coming down.
Does he have it?
Papyrus is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Daan Pepels and welcome to Norway, to the Rudskogen Motor Center for round number 7 of the American Sim Racing League. This track, it's an interesting one, and especially with the GT4's incredible cars, an incredible track. We're set for an incredible evening of racing here for the American Sim Racing League GT4 series. Talking about Rudskogen, it's 3.15 kilometers long. Track temperature at the moment for the drivers 26 degrees Celsius. Of course, located in Norway, in Rudskogen. I hope I said that correctly. Moved to Sweden recently, just per your information. Haven't learned to speak any Swedish yet, so yeah. Swedish and Norwegian names are still very difficult to pronounce for me. Did my best though, but it's an interesting one. It's a track with a lot of elevation changes, a lot of high-speed corners, especially turn 3. It's an interesting one. Downhill, braking and turning at the same time, which always gives us some interesting pictures. Taking a look then at the track at the moment, and the driver is out on track because we are already in round number 7 of the championship. We join a bit late, and we have a championship to look at. 28 drivers in that championship so far, and let's take a look at how they're all lining up. It is Brody Gunter who's leading the way on 253 points out of Dave Seats in P2 on 232 points. The top 2 very much running away with things. Brian Dees in P3 out of Andrew Bollicky in P4. And Robert Henry in P5. Already, excuse me for any mispronunciations. If you hear your name pronounced incorrectly, shoot me a PM on Discord and tell me how to pronounce your name. A lot of different pronunciations here. We have Argentinians, we have Canadians, we have Americans, we have everything in this league, of course. Andres Martinez in P6 out of Kite Shepherd in P7. Paul Ellison in P8 out of Corey Rutherford in P9. Joshua Rutherford in P10, rounding off the top 10 ahead of Corey Groves in P11. Johnny Alford in P12 out of Rick Thompson in P13. Fred Thompson in P14 ahead of Calvin Levy in P15. Then we have Kenneth Estep in P16 out of Garrett Rainey in P17. Then in P18 we have Terry Crouch. Further in the championship we have in P19 Jose Mauri and Ryan Flanagan in P20. Mike Pepper in P21. Alexander Abade in P22 out of Matt Dyer in P23. Despain in P24. Jeffrey Smith P25 out of Casey Campbell in P26. And in P27 Nicholas Batista. Rounding off our 28 strong championship, Sean Cole in P28 on 3 points. Like I said, the top 3 running away with things at the moment, and well, that is not a surprise. We've had 12 races so far in the season. The format for today and how it's been for the start and all the races before this is the drivers at 1 hour of practice to compete in, to set their best lap times, to practice for the race and the qualifying up ahead. 10 minutes of qualifying, lone qualifying, 2 laps you have in those 10 minutes, and especially around this track, 2 laps can be very, very short, especially in a GT4 car. Then we have a 20-minute Heat 1 race, and then a 20-minute Heat 2 race. Now, Heat 2 will be an interesting one because it's a reversed top 62. Now, I can tell you already, we do not have 62 drivers here with us this evening. So it will be a complete flip of the result of race number 1. So we take the result from race number 1, turn the sheet upside down, and that will be your starting grid for Heat number 2. Looking on to qualifying then, the drivers out for qualifying, we're looking with Dave Seats, the person who's won 3 of the 12 races. Now, Brody Gunter has 9 wins out of those 12, so that means automatically that only 2 drivers have won a race so far this season in the 12 races that we have had. Taking a look then with the man at the moment on a very quick lap. As we can see, Dave Seats is the first one actually on a quick lap. He's over halfway through, coming into sector 4 right now, sector 3, excuse me. Purple in sector 2 for Dave Seats. You can see where he's going to put himself. With about 7 minutes and 10 seconds left of this qualifying session. Now, I do have to remind you, if you are European, you are watching this, this might be a bit late for you. For me at the moment, in Central European summertime time zone, it is about 2 a.m. at night. So this might be a bit late for you to race around. Then we have a JPB GT4 League for you as well to compete in. Links are down in the description. Now, if you love the Clio Cup 2. You can race in that too here with JP Broadcasting. There's a link of that down in the description too. You can sign up for both of the events. Monday will be the Clio Cup, and then Wednesday will be the GT4 League. So you can race in both in the same week, which is absolutely amazing. Now, Seeds goes to pole position on 126.577. That is a quick lap time so far. Mike Pepper in second, only 43 thousandths behind that. And we have Terry Crouch, excuse me, in P3. He's already gone back to pit lane. Think he had an off track in turn 1 on his second lap, so that will be his qualifying over Dalton Kilroe in P4, 1.2 seconds back on the top 3. Now the top 2, like I said, have been really running away with things here. Brody Gunter 9 wins, Dave Seeds 3 wins out of the 12 races that we have done. Now they do usually say Red Bull liveries in iRacing, stay away from them, they're very dangerous. I don't believe that's the case with Dalton Kilroe here at the moment in P4 in his Porsche. Doing a tremendous job. There goes Brody Gunter though into pole position on a 126.284. Halfway through this qualifying now. He has already done his 2 laps, so he will not be able to set a quicker lap time anymore. But Brody Gunter, who's won 9 of the 12 races so far, so who's won 3/4 of the season so far, pops himself up into that pole position to maybe take another victory here in heat number 1. Four sectors here this evening. Sector number 3 and 4 are purple for Brody Gunter. A little bit further back in the field, it is Fukenda Rago with a purple first sector, but he's back in pit lane. I think he had the same thing that some of the other drivers had as well, and that is an off track. Terry Crouch had it too, I think, an off track in his second lap, which put him down the order, or which is probably going to put him down the order. He's still at P4 though with that lap, 3/10 back on Gunter at the moment. We're looking with Joshua Rutherford in P19 at the moment. He's on his third lap, so he already has done all his laps. Everyone, all of our 22 drivers at the moment have done their lap times. And he goes back into pit lane. He's not going to improve. Love the sound of that Aston Martin though. It's a lovely sounding car, especially the GT4. Jordan Probst is still out on track in his Porsche Cayman. He's also done his 2 laps. Everyone who's out on track at the moment already done their 2 laps. No one who's out on track at the moment is going to be able to improve. Jordan Probst, we've seen it, and I've said it so far, he's already done his 2 laps, which means that he ain't going to improve anymore. 6 is where he will be. He will be none higher than that. It doesn't look like anyone below him is improving either. Now, an interesting thing here is that Corey Rutherford has not set a lap time yet. So Corey at the moment still in pit lane, not having set a lap time so far, which is interesting to note because Corey at the moment was doing good in the championship, was up there in the top 10. This could be massive for his championship. This could be a massive swing halfway through the championship too. Now that was qualifying for you. That's how quick things can go here. Those 10 minutes of qualifying does not allow you for a lot of mistakes, and those 2 laps mean that every lap counts. So every lap is important for these drivers. Andy Martinez still out on track. he's not going to improve either. These drivers just getting their practice in. You can use this as a bit of practice. If you don't go back to pit lane, you can still go out. Welcome in to everyone, 18 of you can see here. Welcome to Michael David in chat. Welcome to Corey too in chat. And welcome to Mullet Music Productions. This is Joshua. Corey had the computer problems and just got back in the sim. There we go. Joshua, who at the moment finds himself all the way down on P20. He did set a lap time, 3.3 seconds slower than our lead driver, Brody Gunter. But that, I think, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying over for you. Corey Rutherford hasn't got any time left really to put a time on the board, so he will be starting all the way on the back of the grid here now. Facundo Rago, the Argentinian, also hasn't been able to set a lap time. He did set, well, he did come across the line at least once, but he had an off-track in that lap time, and then I think off-tracked his second lap time too. So that's what, like I said, 2 lap times only, so every lap counts. Welcome to Santiago Martinato in chat too. That is qualifying for you. Let's take a look at the grid and how the drivers will be lining up here. It is Brody Gunter on the pole position ahead of Dave Seats in P2. Mike Pepper in P3 and Terry Crouch rounding off the second row. Dalton Kilrow in P5 and Jordan Probst in P6. Andy Pollocky in P7 and of Kite Shepherd in P8. Calvin Levy in P9 and of Brian Dees in P10. Derek Moorish in P11 ahead of Ken Estep in P12. Then P13 for Johnny Alfredo, or Alford, excuse me. Paul Ellison in P14 of Andy Martinez in P15. Robert Henry in P16. Then Rick Thompson in P17. Corey Groves in P18. 19 Nicholas Batista. Joshua Rutherford in P20. And that's it. We don't have more time. Drivers already out on track. They've already gridded. Brody Gunter will be leading them off the pole position. It's green, green, green for heat number 1. Brody Gunter with a good start behind that. Dave Seats with an even better one in the McLaren side by side with Mike Pepper. Mike Pepper around the outside. That might be an off track there for Dave Seats though. Was all over that curbstone on the exit of turn number 1. So far though, it seems like everyone has got through cleanly. Derek Moorish in the Porsche has got through cleanly too in that 34 machine. The whole field so far in one big slinger coming down the hill, running into turn 3. Most difficult corner on the track, I must say, from personal experience. Looking at the leader, Brody Gunter is already bolted. 1.7 seconds for the McLaren driver. Mike Pepper in P2, 1.8 seconds behind that. Very much in a fight with the drivers behind him. Dalton Kilrow and Terry Crouch, both Porsches. Then we have another McLaren of Crouch. Is now going to try and go around the outside of Kilrow. You should say that it isn't possible in the left-hander, but it is. He makes it work. Terry Crouch moves himself up into the podium spot. Still very early days though, so we still got to keep it in P3 for the rest of this race. But a great move there from the McLaren driver. Meanwhile, Brody Gunter at the front of the field comes through in a 1:30.7. A 1.4 second lead though for Brody. Mike Pepper behind him, who's going to try and look to be a 3rd winner this season. To see if he can unsettle the 2 at the front. Brody Gunter with 9 wins instead of Dave Seats with 3 wins. Those are the only 2, like I said, who've took victories this season so far in the 12 races that we have had. Andy Pollocky in the BMW a bit wide. He's not the only one though to go wide, but he's by far the best at BMW on track. Next BMW, Shepherd in P12. That BMW seems to be a handful to drive around this Rudskogen Motor Center. Rago up 10 positions. He's had an incredible start to this race too. There we go on the left hand side, you can see an incredible amount of gain for Rago, up 10 positions already. Started all the way down on P21, by far the biggest gainer in the field. Once again, Günther comes through with a purple lap time, 26.6, already bolted, 2.3 seconds at the top of the field. Rago going to go for another move on the Aston Martin of Martinez. Martinez fenced it off though, brakes late, maybe too late. The exit is going to be for Rago. The 95 Mercedes seems to work well here. Two Mercedes here, Calvin Levy. And the other Mercedes down on P18. He is the biggest loser in the field so far. That Mercedes also a handful to drive, it seems like. Not an easy car. Not a stable car at all, but it seems to be a quick one in the hands of Rago at the moment. Brody Günther, here he is, the leader, 4 seconds ahead of Mike Pepper, and I think that tells the story of the season so far. Brody Günther going for his 10th win this season. Mike Pepper though, he is still in contest with Terry Crouch and Dalton Kilroe for those last podium spots, P2, P3 now at the moment. These two are fighting for the McLaren of Crouch, very much looking aggressive here in these opening laps. It says lap 3 of 40. That's because it's capped to a amount of 40 laps. It is very much the time that is going to decide once this race is going to come to an end. Crouch is going to try it around the outside of turn 1. This isn't going to work. The inside though is taken by Pepper. Maybe too much of the inside curve, was all over the inside curve. 4 wheels over the white line. Is that a slowdown for the Porsche? At the moment it doesn't seem like it. Behind that though, Dave Seeds and Mike Pepper also fighting over third position. That last podium spot, the inside for the McLaren, very much the favorite line through there. The Porsche goes wide and has to yield though. That is Dave Seeds back into P4. Pepper in the Porsche has gotten ahead. Seeds, the other driver with a win. Derek Morish for a little bit further back in the field also. Still in with a great shot. Polacky's just won a position to Jordan Props. They're side by side going down into turn 7. Andy Polacky, where can he pull this move off? Around the outside of turn number 9. It wouldn't be possible here. The outside very much in the disadvantage. Isn't brave enough to put it around the outside. What would you this early on into the race? It is still a sprint race, don't get me wrong. And telling a driver to slow down, especially in a sprint race, and take it easy, is something that only a brave man does. Usually even engineers don't tell the drivers to slow down. Andy Polacky going for it. Rago a little bit further back in that Mercedes, making moves. Now up 9 positions. The other BMW, I think of Kevin Estep, that is in the 66 machine, leaving the door open for everyone else to come through. He's a lap down on everyone. Meanwhile, a little bit further back in the field, I think you can see why Ken Estep is this far down. Take a look at this. This was in the last corner of the track. Is he going to spin it on his own? I have a feeling he is. Yes, into the right-hand side wall. He is. Comes back on track. Is he going to go off again? Now let's hope he keeps it clean, because he crashes about 3 more times after this. Oh, that front right wheel is toasted. Yeah, there we go. Goes back to pit lane. Back to live pictures. Ken Estep, we saw the incident, and that's why he's down the order. Look at these McLarens go though. Top 3 Brody Gunther, Terry Crouch and Dave Seeds all in McLarens. Then we have 2 Porsches, a BMW, 2 Porsches again, and then the first of the Aston Martins. The best Mercedes all the way down to P14. What has happened to Fernando Rago, who's dropped all the way down the order? The man who was up in P9 earlier on. This is what happened to him, just a bit too wide, touching the grass. Can he keep it out of the wall though? He can. But has to let everyone through again. Drops back into P20 where he was at the start of the race. Actually, it was in P21. But pretty much back to where he was at the beginning. And all that hard work that he put in the beginning is all gone now. And he has to do all of it again. It's very much more difficult now because everyone's spread out. Positions aren't gained as easily as they were in the beginning of the race. Dave Seesdo has lost 1 position. Terry Crouch 5 seconds back on Gunther. He's not going to do anything about that if Gunther just keeps it on track now. This is an interesting one. Dalton Kilroe on the back of Martinez. The first of the Aston Martins. Have to say, love the livery of Martinez. Down the inside, now goes Kilroe. Sells him the dummy, the switchback is done. However, very nicely defended by Martinez. Made sure he gave him just enough room to work with, but also not enough room that he was well comfortable to go for that move. And Dalton Kilroe backed out of it. Back onto the front stretch now. Kilroe is going to give it another go down to turn 1, I think. However, looks like he's just a bit too far back in that Porsche. Behind that, I have to say, Kite Shepherd in that Total Energies livery. This is by far my favorite livery I've seen so far. But there are a lot of great liveries, such as the Martini livery on the McLaren of Henry behind that. Down the inside now. The BMW has a look. Doesn't go for the move though, backs out of it. Maybe a smart decision, especially into that corner. Don't want to go side by side through there too much. Brody Gunther, what a drive from the American. Unbelievable in that McLaren. He's mighty. And he's just doing it like it's absolutely nothing. He's on a Sunday drive. But he has the 01 number for a reason. And he got 9 wins in the first 12 races so far for a reason. He's consistent. That's how you win championships. Now Seeds behind him has to make sure he doesn't lose too much ground to him. However, 3.2 seconds to Crouch ahead of him. It's not going to help him. This is an amazing fight though. All cars within a second. Ellison now the first one to drop outside of a second in the BMW. Alford, who is in the closest battle on track in that Porsche. The 710 machine. Levi ahead of him, who's now the lead Mercedes since Rago has dropped down, has already gained 2 positions again. He's now going to try and get onto the back of Corey Groves ahead of him, the Canadian. The only Argentinian in this division so far is Facundo Rago. I haven't seen a lot of moves pulled off, especially down into this section. It's somewhere where he can outbrake a driver, but it's also a very awkward position. Calvin Levi up the inside, had a little look, pushes the BMW wide. That is Ellison ahead of him. He's going to go for a move down the inside of turn 13. That long sweeping right-hander of 14 now. There was a touch though on the front of that Mercedes to the back of the BMW. It was a bit of a bump and run there from Levi. Ellison now has the defense from Johnny Alford behind him, who's now under pressure from the BMW of Thompson, who goes down the inside. Can he get it slowed down in time? He can. That is Thompson up into P15. Over halfway now in this race. Over halfway in heat number 1. Like I said, heat number 2. Again 20 minutes, but a reverse top 62. So we flipped the field around. Then we have our starting grid for race number 2. What an amazing battle this is, though. The drivers not giving each other an inch. Johnny Alford in the middle of it all. Behind Ricky Thompson. The 2 BMWs strong in line now. Levi, an absolute bump and run there on Paul Edison. So far, though, an incident-free race, really. Haven't seen too many crashes. Drivers have kept it clean. Morris at the front of the field going for a move on Andy Pollocky. Now, where is the Canadian going to put that Porsche, that lime green Porsche of his, alongside that BMW? Doesn't look like it's down the turn 1. Doesn't have the exit speed that you would need to pull off that move. Just going to slot in line again. Johnny Alford is very much all over the back of the BMW. It's a difficult track, though, to overtake on. You have to give the drivers that. The best run is coming out of turn 2, really. Down into turn 3, 4. That's where a move is usually made, but it is a difficult corner to pull it off. You can run around the outside, but then you're counting on the guy on the inside to keep it tied to the corner. This is what I mean. You can run out really wide on exit A. You run out completely to the wide line, which is what Johnny Alford does. Nicely demonstrated there by our American in the 710 Porsche. Right on cue. If that happens with a car alongside him on the outside, there is for sure going to be contact, because the car on the outside gives itself just enough room to work with. Goes all the way out to that wide line, but not over it, because then you're off the track technically. So that's as much room as the car on the outside can give itself, and then you have a Porsche steaming down the inside, not getting it stopped for the corner. And that's where you can see the contact happening. Kilroe, meanwhile, a little bit further up the road. Dalton Kilroe on the defense for these behind him. Or Martinez behind him, excuse me. Ahead of him is Dees. Morris as well. Morris is now under attack from Dees down the inside. Has a little look. Pulls back out of it. All Porsches, Dees. Trying to attack the only BMW, a bit wide though from Kilroe on the exit. That might give him a better exit down in the turn 3. Doesn't go for the move though. Like I said, you don't really want to risk it, do you? The BMW is off the track though. Derek now down the inside. Morris goes up. It's a P6. Pollocky drops all the way down the order now. Has the inside for turn number 5, 6. Has to leave the inside open though. Has to leave the Porsche some room to work with, and with that has lost about 3 positions. Morris, Dees, Kilroe all got past and is now under pressure from the Aston Martin of Martinez. Andy Pollocky with just 1 moment of going wide, 1 moment of going off track, and there you go, loses about 3 positions with that. Brian Dees, where's he going to pull off that move? He looks, well, he looked closer than he was. Pollocky, he's again dropping down the order. Where's his speed gone? He's just lost all momentum, lost that position to the Aston Martin of Martinez too. And immediately drops about 3-4 tenths back. Now, the other BMW of Shepard in the Total Energy livery BMW is on the back of him too. Who's putting under pressure? Kilroe is putting his fellow Porsche driver under pressure too. That's Dees up ahead of him. Meanwhile, about 3 minutes left, a bit more. And it's still Brody Gunter. Can we give this man like a second of appreciation? He has seen absolutely no one in this race. Bolted from the word go. That green flag was waved by the marshal at the start. The red light, well, the red lights went out and he never really looked behind. Brody Gunter Incredible drive from this young man. Still has about 3 minutes to go. Don't want to jinx it. So let's go to the drivers behind them where the fight is going on. This is Andy Martinez in the Aston Martin. That 26 Aston Martin. The other Aston Martin is in the hands of Joshua Rutford and Nicholas Batista. Nicholas Batista has stayed where he was. The only driver to stay in his spot, together with Brody Gunter, of course, who started pole position and bolted after the start. Biggest gainer in the field so far. 2 drivers. Facundo Rago, who's made his way back up into P15, is going to try and get some more position. The Porsche of Alford down the inside of Levy on the outside. Oh, that was late braking from the 2. And Rago gains another position. I think that was Rutherford in the McLaren. He was a lap down, I think. So he had nothing to do with that. But Facundo Rago, now the biggest gainer in the field, up 7 in P14. Was all the way up in P8 at some stage. Dropped all the way down because of a mistake in this corner. And that was really punishing. Touched the grass on the outside here. Went way too wide. And that was his race over pretty much. Facundo Rago made his way back up into P14. What it could have been, you have to think, for him, if he didn't have that moment now on the back of his fellow Mercedes driver Levi ahead of him. Calvin Levi. Further up the road, Brian D still defending on Kilroe. Kilroe hasn't been able to get past, really has been stuck behind D's for so long. Both losing time to Morris ahead. Morris is about 7.1 seconds back on Probst, who himself is now going to go for a move on Mike Pepper, maybe down into, well, I was going to say turn 3, but they're not there yet. Now they run down into turn 3. Martinez has gone down the inside of Kilroe. Kilroe demoted back down into P9. They're side by side coming into turn 3. Is there going to be contact? If the Porsche keeps it there, you pretty much can't avoid it. You can if the Aston Martin just leaves him enough room to work with. That was almost it. There you go, sir. You can have that position from Martinez. Martinez not wanting to get into the way almost of Dalton Kilroe. Probst, though, has gone down the inside of Pepper. They're side by side coming down the backstretch. Where is he going to take it? We're going to have to take a look at Brody Gunter, because he's going to come through to take a dominant victory in race 1. Brody Gunter takes it again. Victory number 10 in the season. And he will start down on P22 in heat number 2. Crouch takes P2. Incredible drive from him in that 15 Aston McLaren machine. Dave Seeds comes through in P3. Kilroe takes the position over Dees, though Dees stays ahead of Kilroe. But behind that, Alfredo. It's a run down to the line between the 2. Levi takes that position. But what a race that was. Wow, wow, wow. Just that. Can't really say else about it. An incredible drive from everyone. Almost an incident-free race there. I don't think I've seen an incident between 2 drivers. Let's hope more of the same is going to be the case in race number 1, or race number 2, excuse me, heat 2. Batista is the last one across the line. Here he is in his Aston Martin. A lovely sounding car, for sure. Well, let's take a look at the results of heat number 1. There we go. Brody Gunter ahead of Terry Crouch in P2. Rounding off the podium is Dave Seeds. Jordan Probst in P4 ahead of Mike Pepper in P5. Derek Morris in P6 ahead of Brian Dees in P7. Dalton Kilroe in P8 ahead of Andy Martinez in P9. And Andy Pollicky in the BMW rounding off the top 10. Andy, who was at some stage up in P5, 6, dropped 1 position. All of a sudden, the heavens opened. the floodgates opened for Andy Pollocky, and he dropped all the way down into P10. Stayed there for the rest of the race, though. Kite Shepherd in P11 ahead of Robert Henry in P12. Facundo Rago in P13 ahead of Calvin Levy in P14. Johnny Alford in P15 ahead of Paul Ellison in P16. 17th for Corey Groves and Joshua Rutherford in P18. 19th, Nicholas Batista ahead of Corey Rutherford in P20. Ken Estep, we saw that incident early on in the race, hard into the wall out of the last corner. And that ended his race early. From that point onwards, it was just a drive at the back for Ken Estep, trying to gain positions that he could gain. Rick Thompson in P22 and Sean Cole in P23. Rounding off our 23 strong grid this evening. Whew, it's time to relax a bit after that chaotic race 1. The action was all over the place. Here's Facundo Rago giving it some. This man could be a contender for victory in race number 2. He was very quick coming through the field. And he kept it there. Except from that one moment when he spun. Coming up through turn 6. Turn 5 and 6. That was the difficult bit for this Mercedes. The Mercedes seems to be a quick car to drive. But it also seems to be a very, very difficult car to drive. So it's got a bit of a dilemma here. Does Rago. Comes back into pit lane. Drivers have about a 5-minute warm-up session here. But let me know in chat, what did you think of that first race? If you think, wow, I want to do that, you can, of course, there's a link in the description you can see where it's available for everyone to join the server. For the Europeans under us, JP Broadcasting is running a GT4 League 2 and is running a and JP Broadcasting is also running a Clio Cup. So if you want to take part in both of those, description or the link is down in the description below. So make sure, if you're European, American, it doesn't really matter. Check it out and see if you can take part in the races. GT4 runs on Wednesday. The Clio Cup runs on the Monday. But that was a chaotic first race, and let's take a breather from the action for a bit. And let's go on board with Andy Pollocky, the driver who I think was most unlucky in that race. What a lovely sounding car, that BMW. I have to say, almost afraid to interrupt it. That's how good it sounds. Let me know in chat, what's your favorite sounding car too? Interesting to see what chat thinks of it. I think it's the Aston Martin. After that comes the BMW. Rick Thompson also in the BMW. Brody Gunter in the McLaren. The McLaren it has a very retro steering wheel, it seems like. But let's take a look at how the drivers will be lining up here for race number 2. There we go. There is the grid. And let's take a look at who will be on pole position. Sean Cole in P1 out of Rick Thompson in P2. Ken Estep in P3 out of Corey Rutherford in P4. Nicholas Batista P5. Joshua Rutherford in P6. Corey Groves in P7. Paul Ellison P8. Johnny Alford in P9. Calvin Levy in P10 out of Facundo Rago in P11, who I pip as my favourite for the victory here. Henry Robert Henry in P12 ahead of Kite Shepard in P13, Andy Pollock in P14, Andy Martinez in P15, 16 Dalton Kilrow, Brian Dees P17, Derek Morris P18, Mike Pepper P19, Jordan Props in P20. Let's clear everything. Seems like the pole sitter is not on the grid. That'll mean that Rick Thompson will jump all the way up to the front. We're green for race number 2. Rick Thompson with a great start in that BMW. BMW about 4 cars strong at the front. However, that must be a cut track from Rick Thompson. That must be a slowdown. And that might allow Ken Estrup into the lead of this race. Look a little bit further back though. Fernando Rago already up 3 positions in this race. What a opening corner for him. Thompson in P1 and Rutherford in P2. Estrup in P3. Estrup has gone up into P2 now. Takes the McLaren on the inside of turn number 3. What a move from the number 66. Corey Rutherford in P3 now. Drop down 1 position. Nicholas Batista is going to go around the outside in that Aston Martin. Seems to be a driving roadblock at the moment, dropping down the order. However, Ellison is dropping down the order like a stone. Where is Ellison? There is Ellison in the 55. Comes back on track. Unfortunate, really, for Paul Ellison. Ken Estrup, though, the man who was out of race number 1 by lap 2, smashed hard into the wall on the exit of this corner, is now in the lead of this race. Rago, however, once again had a flying opening lap. And talking about flying opening laps, look at this man. Dalton Kilrow up 11 positions so far. What a drive from the man in the Porsche. Unbelievable, can't believe it. Up 11 positions from where he started. Gunter, Brody Gunter also up 10. Is he going to be able to get to the front in time? Must be. Battle is here with Brody Gunter. Let's go on board with Brody Gunter and see how he manages his way through the drivers. A better exit here down the inside maybe. Can't really make that move. Stick up ahead of him. You can see all the kerfuffling going on. Everyone wants to fight over the same piece of tarmac. Brody Gunter knowing where to put his car. Inside very much favoured here for Brody Gunter. Rutherford, meanwhile, has taken the lead of this race. Fernando Rago, what a drive from the Mercedes driver, up 9 positions at the moment. An incredible drive from him. Ken Estrup in P3 ahead of Dalton Kilrow in P4 is up 12 positions and looking for more. Rago has now gone up into P1. Brilliant move by the Mercedes driver. And he will now look to extend that lead because you can see in the background Gunter already on a charge. Brody Gunter up into P11 at the moment. front of him is the battle going on for P8, 9 and 10. BW of Pollocky back down on P10. Goes down the inside of Batista in the Aston Martin. Where do you put your car? Being Brody Gunther down the inside following the Aston Martin. At the end, turns out not to be the right move though. Brody Gunther to the outside now. I don't think the Aston Martin of Batista's going to hold him up too much. Batista though puts himself at risk here, does Brody Gunther. Puts his own races at risk here. Look at this down the inside now. Crouch has a little look too. Batista finally drops out of that fight. And gets Crouch runners outside for some extra fun too. Had nothing to say there. Nicholas Batista tried to fight it, but just couldn't. Didn't have the speed to carry it around the outside there. Acundarago now 2 seconds clear. And he needs that time. He needs every second he can get. Now keep it clean for the rest of this race though. Corey Rutherford's in P2. Ahead of Estep in P3. And behind that we have a big fight going on all the way down to P18. Martinez, a little bit of a gap for him. Joshua Rutherford though, look at this. Where is he going to go? Where is he going to put his car? You can almost say there's no room to put his car anywhere really for the Aston Martin driver. Gunther still in P11. His progress stopped at the moment. The gap to the lead for Gunther also ever growing. Here he is. Battles in front of him just keep commencing. There's contact for Brody Gunther on the front of that Aston Martin. Now that's not going to help him. That was down into turn 11, 12. On the exit of turn 10. Now, I might be talking too early here, but it looks like we might get a new winner. Acundarago is doing really well. Dave Sates, who's also won a race in P15. Here he is. Most of his wins came from race 2. See where he's going to put himself. What's the smartest move for him to do now? Levi has gone up the insides of Dalton Kilroe. That fight's still going on. There's contact between the two. Porsche, 4 wheels over the white line, keeps that position though on the grass of the entry to turn 14. Kilroe makes that move stick and is up into P3 in his Porsche. Rutherford has a gap of 5.8 seconds to Rago ahead of him. That's a bigger gap than I expected. Behind that, look at the battle for P12, 13 and 14. Batista, Martinez and Johnny Alford involved in it. All these cars within 3/4 tenths of each other. Of course, once we switch to it, the battle opens up. Proper broadcast like that one. Alford now might be going for a move on Batista. What he's going to do, outside, inside for turn 3. Sticking behind, that's what he's going to do. Kilroe up the back of Rutherford in the McLaren. A Tiger livery McLaren. Rutherford has nowhere to the fight with that one. Dive down the inside of the Porsche. And the 320 machine of Dalton Kilroe up into P2 can now go and chase down the Mercedes of Vrago. Meanwhile, it's Dave Seeds still in P6. Can't make any progress through the field. Estep, who was out of race number 1 on lap number 2 by smashing into the wall out of this corner on the exit of the last corner. Exactly at this point in P5, so a good recovery for him in race number 2. Keeping his own in race number 2 really. And not losing too much time to the drivers ahead of him either. Levi in the other Mercedes. Like I said, that Mercedes seems like a quick car this evening. It's just a very tricky car to drive. Terry Crouch, McLaren v McLaren. 4 McLarens, P6, 7, 8 and 9. Gunter, the most considerable one of the 4. Dave Seeds has just made a move up the inside of Estep. Crouch might be going for a move at Henry too. There we go. Both of them are side by side. The Martini on the inside. Crouch though gets through, and that allows Gunter to take P7. And you don't have to say that twice to Gunter. That's a smart driver, and that's a driver who's fighting for a championship. 28 minutes to go in this race. I thought at the start on the broadcast that it was 2 times 20 minutes. But race number 2 here is 40 minutes long. Gunter in P7, doing well, trying to make that gap up. However, Facundo Rago in P1, 10 positions up on where he started, did well to gain those positions quickly at the start. 8 seconds is the gap. Seeds is his biggest contender behind him. Needs to make as much of a gap as he can. But Rago could be the first one to break the win streak between Seed and Gunter. However, not going to celebrate too early, because we have seen this earlier on the season, for sure. Let's take a lap on board with Facundo Rago. Here we go on board with the Mercedes down on the turn 1. We can see some traffic up ahead. Don't go too far over the inside curve there, because you can get a slowdown and an off track, and a slowdown would really hurt Rago at the moment. All the way out to the outside, cut into the inside before you hit the cross on the outside, because it will slow you down. Now into the most trickiest corner of this track, turn 3 and 4. You run it really deep into 3, then cut it back for 4 to get a good run up the hill. Through turn 5 and 6, not flat by any means in these cars. In any car really. Then now, one of the trickiest corners too. 7 and 8, a really long left-hander, where you have to tuck it in nicely, get on the power, get it as straight as early as possible. Down on the turn 10, we've had turn 9 a bit earlier on. Turn 10, a really sharp right-hander, get it through there, turn it in, get it straight, back on the power for turn number 11 and 10. 11 and 12, excuse me. 12 is a tricky one, you don't want to go out too wide. So is 13, you want to set up well for 14, because the last corner is so important for that run down onto the straight. And off you go, get it as straight as possible, as early as possible, back on, floor it. And that is a lap around this Rudskogen Motor Center circuit. And what an amazing track this is. Dalton Kilroe in P2, doing as well as he can. Dave Seeds, here he is, 3/10 back on the Mercedes of Levi. Levi needs to hold him up here. Gap is 12 seconds. I don't know if that's enough till the end of the race for Rago. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning Rago, his ability to drive quick. We've just seen in the past few races that it's either Brody Gunter or Dave Seeds winning a race, and boy would we love to see that streak being broken. And if it is Rago to do so, or Kilroe, or Levi even himself, then that would be absolutely amazing. 24 minutes left in this race. Levi runs it in a bit deep. You can see the difference between the lines that they take into turn 10. Behind that though, Brody Gunter and Corey Rutherford are having a fight. The McLaren of Gunter has gained that time. Seeds meanwhile has got past Levi into the pit lane, making his first pit stop, and his only one probably. Behind that comes, I think, Rutherford too. That has allowed Brody Gunter and Dave Seeds now to be unleashed, to gain back some time that they lost before they went in, or before they got through the field. Now it is time for Rago to open that pace up. Let's hope he saves some tires at the beginning. Let's hope he can unleash that Mercedes of his now. Gap from Seeds to Rago, about 13, 14 seconds. Gap from Gunter to Rago, another 2 added to that. 17, 16, 17 seconds. So Dave Seeds would need to gain about half a second every lap in order for him to take that position. But I'm sure that Seeds is able to do that. His lap time so far, a 26.99 for Dave Seeds. I expect that to improve. I expect that to improve now that he's been unleashed. Last sector time after he's been unleashed in Sector 4. A green sector time, so there we go. Being unleashed means a lot to Dave Seeds. See if he can do it again. First lap completely on his own. Gunter, what can he do? Can he catch up to Seeds? Maybe try and work together with him to get back up to the front. These two know that usually it's them two fighting for that win. Let's take a look a little bit further back in the field. Kite Shepherd, who's in a fight with Batista and Rutherford ahead of him, both Aston Martins. I like him race one. I love the livery of that BMW. When are they going to make their pit stop though? That's the question. It's Pollocky in the BMW now. Batista under pressure from the BMW. However, where's he going to go? If the BMW throws it up the inside. Now he leaves the inside open. Was about to get burgled and he might well now both run deep into turn 8. The exit is better for the Aston Martin. The BMW of Shepherd though is going to have a look up the inside. It is Batista who's going to defend. And that was needed because the BMW had a serious look up the inside of the 67, excuse me. The 812 of Shepherd, looking quick, looking aggressive. Wants to get past Batista as quick as possible. Both haven't made their pit stop yet. Condorago at the front of the field, opening up that gap, opening up the gap to Kilroy, opening up the gap to Seeds. They can't seem to catch up with him. They can't seem to catch up with the Argentinian. Meanwhile now, Shepard going for a move on Batista. Henry also going for a move on Estep a little bit further up the field. Gonna take a look back at that in a second. The BMW though goes down the inside of the McLaren. The McLaren leaves the door open, leaves him room to work with. That is Shepard up into P13. Rutherford now next on the list for Shepard. Next Aston Martin to tick off, and he is on a mission. You can see how aggressive that BMW looks at the moment. He wants it. He wants that P12 from Joshua Rutherford. Ken Estep has been passed by Henry. This is how that happened. A better exit for Robert Henry. Up the hill, and the BMW leaving him room to work with. Very nicely done for both drivers. Great respect. And both drivers working well with each other. Back to live pictures. There we go. It is Estep into the pit lane. When is Facundo Rago gonna make his pit stop? A lot of drivers have gained a lot of positions. Brody Gunter is one of them. On the back of Dave Seeds, excuse me, is gaining time. So it's Crouch though on Gunter. Crouch is in this too. The McLaren seem to be quick, but not a match for Rago at the moment. Lost lap time, 127.37. Lost lap time, Brody Gunter, 127.49 in clean air. So that's a representative lap time for both of the drivers. Martinez going to have to defend from Johnny Alford, but also wants to attack on Robert Henry ahead of him. He's telling Robert to get a little bit of a move on. Props a little bit further back in the field, up one position already. There we go. He's now defending. Or Groves has to defend, or Rutherford has to defend from Probst now. Doesn't do that successfully. Up into P18 goes Jordan Probst. Nicholas Batista is into the pit lane too. There he is. Facundo Rago is still out on track. 17 minutes to go. It is looking more and more likely that we will see a third different winner in the first 14 races. And boy, is everyone cheering him on. The only Argentinian in this league, in the race so far. Not in this league, in this race, excuse me. Sure, there are more Argentinians in the American Sim Racing League. Who's that off the track? Was that Rutherford? Joshua Rutherford, what have you done, my man? We're going to take a look at what he's done on the exit. Has just lost it, overcorrected into the wall on the left-hand side. And that car parked on the exit. Lucky to get it away in time. Condorago is everyone cheering him on. Dave Seeds in P3 ahead of Brody Gunter, but not for long, I have a feeling. 5/10 is the gap between the two. Alford also on the back of Andy Martinez in that Pennzoil Porsche. Where's Martinez going to put his Aston Martin though, because he's trying to attack on Robert Henry ahead of him. We're on board with the Aston Martin of Andy Martinez. Oh, I just love the pure sound of the Aston Martin. Let's take a look on board with Andy Martinez and let's listen how this car sounds. Before we do that, let's take a look with the Porsche. If he's going to go for a move on the inside of of Martinez, excuse me. Had a little look, couldn't quite make it. But let's take a listen on board with Andy Martinez in the Aston Martin. Oh, just beautiful, the pure sounds of the Aston Martin. A lap around this track, a silent lap around this track, just pure engine sound of the Aston Martin. Let's take a look back up front, Brody Gunther behind Dave Seeds. Aston Martin sounds good too, don't get me wrong. Just a pure growl of that Aston Martin. Something that all the other cars don't have. Martinez in P7, the only Aston Martin on the lead lap still. Here's Crouch behind him. He's also catching up to these two. Brody Gunther, how quick can he get past Seeds? Because it looks like he's quicker, but Seeds is not going to allow him past this easily. Already lost some time in, or some points in race number 1 to the championship leader Gunther. Wants to claw some back in race number 2, so he's not going to allow him past easily. These two, they'll be on it till the end of the season. There's about 25 points between the two. Not exactly 25, not exactly sure. There's about 25 points between the two. And that's definitely a gap that you can close down in the next 7-8 races. We're going to all over the back now of David Seeds. Where is Dave going to go though? Once I think Gunther throws that car up the inside, is Gunther wanting to be aggressive? Does he want to throw that car up the inside? Does he want to just risk the position that he's in at the moment? Just some good championship points. Yes, he might lose 2 or 3 points in this race to Seeds, but overall this evening he's still gained some points on the man ahead of him. And Facundo Rago has gone into pit lane. So does Brody Gunther. Seeds though, the only one continuing together with Dalton Kilroe. Dalton Kilroe now inherits that lead. 10 minutes to go on the clock. When are these two going to come in? Both of them still in pit lane on the pit exit now for Facundo Arago. Here he is, emerging from pit lane. Don't cross that white line. Don't you dare throw that victory away. You would be only the 3rd different winner in 14 races. Dalton Kilrow, how long can he keep that car going? Has he saved enough fuel to go to the end? That's the question. Wouldn't say it is possible. However, never say never. You never know what drivers are up to. You never know what strategy they're running. Dalton Kilrow on the 320, not coming in this time round either. So once again, gonna cross start finish. Lap times here about 1 minute 28s, 27s. Behind them though, I think Seats has gone in. Robert Henry though coming through, I think. Is he gonna go into pit lane? Yes he is. Or Johnny Alford behind him gonna come into pit lane. He's not. Both Porsche continuing. Seems like a Porsche very good on his fuel mileage. Derek is into the pit lane as Brian D's gonna go in. It looks like it from the line that he's taken. Yes, he is into pit lane. Facundo Arago cycles back through to the top 3. The 2 cars ahead of him haven't pitted yet. So this is the battle for 2nd and 3rd place. Brody Gunter and Dave Seats. I don't know, maybe Kilrow will emerge in front of the 2. It's going to be close between those 2. Pit lane time about 48 seconds, 47 seconds. Now you don't lose all those 47 seconds. Kilrow and Alford into pit lane now. Here goes Facundo Arago. He's going to cycle through to the front of the field. The Argentinian just needs to keep it clean for 7 more minutes. Martinez moves up into PA2. Has finally gotten past Rutherford in that McLaren. Here's the battle though for P2 and 3. Gunter. Is he going to be impatient, throw that car up the inside at one point? Or is he going to play the patient game? If I was him and I would be the leader of the championship, I would play the patient game here. I would wait. I would make sure that I would make that move safely. Because if I didn't, there might be a penalty waiting for me on the other side of the finish line. Which wouldn't be a good thing for him. Terry Crouch though is also not dropping back far from these 2. Which is a good thing for Terry Crouch. He's in there, he's fighting with them. I do think if Gunter would have been able to get past Dave Seats here, then it would have been a different story. But he isn't. But a different story isn't commencing. A little bit further back in the field is a battle for P7. It is Martinez, Rutherford, Levi and Pepper involved in it. Of course, Rutherford has just been passed by Martinez in the Aston Martin. Levi and Pepper going to try to do the same. Pepper though, if defending from, or Pepper on the attack on Levy. Is he going to send it the long way round? He was about to do that, however, too quick on the loud pedal. That didn't allow him to take the outside line. The Mercedes though, pretty much playing a hold-up game here almost with Pepper. Almost seemingly blocking him on purpose. Almost stopped there on the exits of turn 12. The exit of turn 40 now is where he's going to need to do it. Pepper has the outside for turn number 1. Is he going to try it? He's going to try and hang it the long way around. Isn't able to do it though, and that is a slowdown for Pepper, for sure. For sure that is a slowdown. Yeah, Pepper's going to slow down here. There we go. There's Pepper taking a slowdown. Has already taken it, I think. A very tactical slowdown. Back to the lead at the front. Or back to the battle at the front. Gunter behind seat still. When is a move going to happen here? Keeps it tied to the inside now. Has a little look. Tries to unsettle seats ahead of him. Gunter knows how to drive these cars, but Facundo Rago, the only thing with 4 minutes left on the clock and a almost 20-second lead, the only thing that you say that he has to do now is keep that car in a straight line, pointing the right direction, turning him at the correct point, and just making sure that car gets across the finish line safely. And then he would be only the 3rd winner in 14 races time. Martinez meanwhile on the back of Henry now. And that Aston Martin also fly in. Gunter, where is he going to make that move? I can't see him getting past. Cease is just defending so stoutly. I can't see a move being made. Jordan Probst is going to go around the outsides of Poliki. Poliki, however, has some company from Rago behind. The flicker of the lights from the BMW. When is he going to let the Mercedes of Facundo Rago through? Because that's going to be crucial. On the, well, let's say that Jordan Probst is playing a very smart game here. He's on the bumper of that Mercedes. The Mercedes is going to risk it. Rago, the leader of the race, is going to risk it down the inside of the BMW. The Porsche is going to follow. Is there contact between the two? There's not. The two give each other enough respect now, side by side through turn 5 and 6. This can't work. Is it going to work? It is not for Poliki. Drops back down, but now the exit is better for Poliki down into turn 7 and 8. Still side by side, the two of them. The Porsche on the outside, down into turn number 10, the inside for the Porsche. However, has to slot back in behind. And I think next time coming across the line, it might well be the last lap for Facundo Rago. Slow it down a bit, and you will get your white flag. For sure, he'll for sure get a white flag this time round with a lap time of 1:28 almost, and about 1:24, 1:23, 1:22 on the clock. This is the last lap for Felipe Rago, or Facundo Rago. He's going to enjoy it. Brody Gunter is not going to enjoy this though. Has been behind seats for the whole race. Has not been able to get past. And now there into the last lap on the right hand side. You can see Barry waving that white flag. Frantically waving it. Strongest right arm in iRacing. Brody Gunter is not going to get past. Crouch has caught back up to them too. But this man did everything he needed to do into the last couple of corners down to turn number 10. Did everything he needed to do. Got a brilliant start. Gained all the positions at the, well, in the opening 2 laps. Went from P11 all the way up into P1. and is about to take his first victory this season and become only the third different winner this season. Facundo Rago is going to come across the line to take victory in the feature race. 40 minutes, he held on to it, and he becomes the third winner this season. And he stops the Brody Gunther and Dave Seeds dominance. What a drive from the Argentinian. Meanwhile, further behind that, Terry Crouch has got past too. What has happened to David Seeds? What has happened to Dave Seeds? We can have a look back at it in the end. But Dave Seeds has dropped all the way back down to P4. Was it a dive from Gunther? In the end, Martinez going to try and get past Henry too. He's not going to be able to make that move. That run to the line is way too short. Ken Estep, what can he do compared to Pepper? He loses that position to Pepper too. Pepper up into P9, Ken Estep in P10. A good comeback though for the BMW driver after he was, well, almost plumb last P21 at the end of, well, race 1, where he had an unfortunate incident. Kite Shepherd, the last one to come across the line in my favourite livery this evening. That Total Energies livery just looks stunning with all the different colours. What a drive from the 812 14th and the second quickest BMW. Well then, what a race that was. Let's take a look at the results here for this race. Wow, wow, wow. I keep saying Felipe Facundo Rago takes a victory. Only the third different winner this season. Terry Crouch in P2, ahead of Dave Seeds in P3. Johnny Alford in P4, ahead of Robert Henry in P5. Andy Martinez in P6. Corey Rutherford in P7. Ken Estep P8. Derek Morris in P9. Brody Gunther in P10. Kelvin Levi in P11. Dalton Kilroy in P12. Kite Shepherd in P13. Mike Pepper in P14. And of Jordan Probst in P15. And of Andy Pollock in P16. And Nicholas Batista in P17. Brian Dees in P18, who did a really, really good job too, but sadly wasn't to be for him. Paul Ellison in P19, out of Corey Groves in P20. Rick Thompson in P21. Joshua Rutherford in P22. And Sean Cole all the way down in P23. Not starting this race. Well, let's quickly take a look back at what happened to Dave Seeds, and then we will round off this broadcast. This is what happened to Dave Seeds in the end. Was it a dive from Brody Gunther? It was. Oh, contact between the two. Brody, what are you doing? There was no need for that. And that has put Dave Seeds all the way back into P4 off the podium. And nothing really that Dave Seeds could do about that. Well then, I thank you all very much for watching. Sadly, no time for interviews anymore. We have to move on. I thank you all for watching. It's been a pleasure to be here for round number 7 of the American Sim Racing League GT4s live from Rudskogen Motor Center. I will see you, of course, next time around next week. Same time, different track though. Hopefully the same spectacle that we've seen this evening. Thank you all for watching. And until next time, stay safe. I'll see you then. Bye bye.